Taxes, okay.
Nice.
My opponent, yeah, my deck had a card here based on cutting.
What's the Glenn Jones nickname of the deck?
The Death and Taxes list, what is the distinction between Death and Taxes and Green and Taxes?
While he was
Okay, and it still runs the Mangara? Okay.
Then, once you get your slip, I'll just go ahead and give you a warning turn.
Okay.
Look at extra cards.
Okay. Do you want to see one of my extra cards? Like,
A lot of Denver ones that are like,
As far as
being mono white. But neither Reliquary and Tarmogoyf looks like they're the two best cards in this deck. Well, like, so Kasali Primate is also really good. So adding green to the deck just might make the deck like competitive. Like,
Give me just a second.
can we start?
I know I'm being obnoxious. I feel like I'm
my mulligan.
be low on sleep here.
Not gonna happen.
But I don't know. It's a really fun deck, and I feel like it's definitely had times where it's been great for
like
meta
an
games.
asshole, dude.
But I have such trouble believing that.
Well, if you think about it, like, you're gonna know my
Casting
play
three
right away.
permanents that are like,
Like,
you're
oh,
trying to combo
what's that like my
things.
creature? You're like, oh.
I mean, I kind of am looking at
So
the
like Lion's Eye Diamond,
the Mangara.
Oh, no, see, I'm just like,
What you got now? Potentially more powerful Vindicate. And so, if we think of it as slow Vindicate, whatever you want to call it, slow Vindicate, and you're adding that on top of Wastelands, and not only Wastelands, but Knight of Reliquary Wasteland, you really can put down
maybe I'm
a
not dressed
position
yet,
where you
like-
suppress your opponent's permanents in a very aggressive way. And
when you have a draw, the
your
only person
Galaxy
I've
can
ever
stop
known
the
to draw
Choice of
with
Wills from
Dredge
maybe
is
making that
my
happen,
guy,
in terms of
he
stopping
could,
it.
like,
And Kasali
he
Pride
actually
Mage is another way
game
to
one.
knock off some
Round one,
permanents. I
game
mean,
one.
I
Dredge
think
versus
that
Ant.
there are a
Game
lot of
one,
ways to
drew
talk
the
about this
match.
deck as using Mangara not to be cutesy combo-y,
Yeah.
but to use
Also,
it as a Vindicate
He's some
in a
kind of
deck that doesn't
hybrid
otherwise have
between Portal 1
Vindicate.
Cave,
Yeah, and
Hill Giant.
in this green version, like that's actually a lot more powerful than the mono white version. You have
Might be better.
you've Knight of the Reliquary. He's big.
Oh, yeah.
Knight of the Reliquary is a monster.
One thing I would really like to see in like future lists of this deck is one Maze of It. I think the synergy between Knight of Reliquary and Maze of It in this format is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'd say every deck besides Zoo, which for obvious reasons doesn't want Maze of It, should probably pack at least one. But then again, Lewis's list may just be very aggressive. We may be misreading the way this is going to play out.
Well, I think we're going to see pretty shortly. I'm always a fan of Jotun Grunts.
Alex is at 19.
This opponent leads off with Curse Catcher on turn 1. Alex is playing a Merfolk deck. He is, however, not the same as the Merfolk deck that we saw in the first round. He is blue-white Merfolk, and he has significantly more blue, or he has 12 blue sources as opposed to 11. 4 of them are fetch lands, and he's also packing 4 tundras. So he's actually more susceptible to wasteland with his blue sources. But he does have 1 extra land that produces.
Which is really scary, being more susceptible to Wasteland. But I mean, there are the benefits of that. Essentially, all for Swords to Plowshares. And this could be a way to lean towards 2 problems the deck might otherwise have. One, the problem of a single big creature, whether it's cheated into play with Show and Tell or Reanimate, or, and obviously that doesn't stop Emrakul, but it stops most other single big creatures. Or the issue that's very simple, which is of a Zoo deck that just has a Knight of Reliquary or a Tarmogoyf that's just too big. Giving them even 5 life, you really don't care with a Merfolk deck, because the amount of damage you can push down, it just keeps growing in this almost linear progression of more damage.
One thing I really like here is Merfolk is almost certainly the most played deck.
Right.
And
Well, let's see if you land it.
it died. But in his sideboard, he has Lawin, Cephalid Empress,
Which is a monster.
which is about as good as it gets in a Merfolk mirror. So it's pretty exciting.
You know, Lawan is a card that ends up doing a lot of other work too. Like, there are moments where you're going to be able to stop things from happening that you don't want to see happen. You know, Lawan, because of the diversity of this format, you can know that there's going to be the potential for an opponent that Lawan just happens to be like a murdering machine against. You know, there might not be a deck that you'll play against, but just the diversity of this format really rewards answers that can have broad application.
Good. Jeez. Come on, one lander on all the 6, obviously. there's
And
3
to
more.
respond to Pengers in the chat, it's not the problem of zoo decks with a single big creature. It's that a zoo deck can put up creatures that are of a similar size or larger than a merfolk deck and bring it down oftentimes slightly faster than the merfolk deck can deal with it. But if you just take out their biggest creature, oftentimes your biggest creature is as the same size or even a little bit bigger. Now we see...
Too is their mana base is actually better than Merfolk, even though they're playing more colors, and they've turn 1 3/3s, where Merfolk is playing turn 1 1/1s with utility.
Yeah.
That like help against combo decks and like help you prevent people from having some sort of shenanigans.
And particularly when a zoo deck is going to be tearing up the lords with pretty strong regularity based on their burn spells, you're not going to be having particularly big merfolk decks merfolk themselves very often.
LED.
Right now, Lewis has the Mom Aether Vial draw, and he's sitting. Moms are pretty good at protecting
That's what it
themselves,
looks like.
but there's also that threat in theory of if he does any kinds of acting, just having it walk into a counterspell. So if he lets the Aether Vial do the work for him, he can, albeit a little bit more slowly, perhaps make the counterspells dead. Alternately, he might simply not have a 2-drop that he can cast.
I mentioned this yesterday, but
Against Caleb?
I've been talking to Lewis Laskin at night a lot, and we've been working together on different decks, and Lewis seems to be an incredible gaming mind, and he's also extraordinarily confident.
You're tapping through now.
He's somebody that I would be really excited to work with.
Oh, okay, yeah, give me your results. Yeah.
I was like,
okay, yeah,
I don't think
yeah,
you're doing
that's
that.
fine. Let him get sure.
Right here, we have the Coral Helm Commander going to the skies, and
Curse catcher?
No.
Swords to Plowshares comes to take care of that.
I got 3.
Yes. 22?
Yeah, Lewis and I were we're both yelling at Michael Paskai about not wanting a 4th Swords in his deck.
And Swords is one of the incentives for playing a blue-white based deck.
Yeah, he ended up playing 4 Swords, but it was funny because Paskai was saying, "But Lewis, you were trying to argue for me to play 3 Swords earlier in the day," and Lewis said, "Well, that's only because you were playing 2. I had to work you up to the 4." He's like, "I knew I couldn't get there if I tried to do it all at once." He's like, "That was just a precursor to this conversation."
That's funny. So right now, we have
How many swords he got?
Alex
cast
moving the
one.
Mutavault
I know you
into
saw
the
it.
red zone, or about to move into the red zone, and a attack with the Merfolk Sovereign. I think that Merfolk Sovereign is coming in. It's off the screen, just below the Silvergill Adept. I can't tell if it's tapped or if it's untapped. Let's see if we can get that to be a little bit more on our screen.
He assigns block order. I give the first creature protection from the color of his attacker. Can he assign damage to the second creature, even though he has not assigned fatal damage to the first creature?
Even though the creature has protection, damage equal to its subject is still considered lethal.
Thank you.
Alex is playing Tundras so that he has access to Sword post-board. Swords is, without a doubt, like the best removal spell ever printed. I mean, arguments, I guess, could be made for like Bolt, but Bolt is more than just a removal spell. It's also a doming tool.
So, a quick check of the playfield shows that there's actually 2 lords that were off screen, which changes the math quite a bit.
That. Wow. We had no idea what was going on.
We had no idea that the world was so dangerous. I thought there was just the one lord, but wow.
I really just had no idea.
Fair enough. That's correct. Yes. It's like the reason to play this deck.
Yeah, the world looks different now.
That's exactly what happened last round when I lost.
Oh, you play against this deck? Something similar? Or you just like put Sword of Fire and Ice with Jin to play in it?
No, it was
Okay.
I'm sure you have them in your front dudes.
And we got 3 on the Aether Vial, which means that things like Knight of the Reliquary can come into play. And Knight actually isn't very big, but with the Mom, it can be there to be protected. You can, like at this point, that Mystic can put into play a sword, and the Aether Vial can put into play a Knight or a Mangara. And then you've got a Sword of Fire and Ice in play, and a Mangara or a Knight of Reliquary.
With 2 moms.
Yeah, this is actually pretty...
This is pretty awesome.
It's a really cool moment that's happening here. I mean, the Merfolk
the
Sovereign
Knight
might be...
works so well with them.
Yeah. So we have an unblockable Lord of Atlantis. Yeah, that Merfolk Sovereign is the card that is going to be putting the real pressure on this game as it develops.
I mean, this game seems to have developed a lot.
Oh yeah.
It's
I mean, Lewis is not afraid to throw away a Stoneforge Mystic.
he's just got to do some
Blocks are tentative. Sure.
Okay, so here's the question. Has he actually started declaring his blockers? Because if he has, that's a bad moment for him.
I think he must have, right?
Okay, I mean, maybe it's actually, if he's happy to wait, which is just fine. Yeah, happy to wait and put the creature out EOT, that's fine.
Yeah.
Protection.
Okay.
Loses the Mystic.
Yeah, take 3.
Takes 3.
Heads down to 10 life.
Okay. I was thinking he would want to put the Aether Vial to put a creature into play that might be willing to, or might be potentially able to kill the Curse Catcher, or to kill something. And what do we get there? That looks like, I think that's
Mangara.
Mangara, yeah.
Oh, that is so good right now.
Oh, Dr. Mangara Caracas.
Heavens to Betsy. I'm proven wrong. Oh, this is just too much fun. I'll put a Sword of Fire and Ice on my mom.
And we'll attack you.
And I'll attack, and I'll shoot somebody.
You'll be at 19. I will...
No, I think he shoots a Lord of Atlantis, and then he Mangaras away the other Lord, and then
The other Lord is not a legend. Oh, Mangara's away. My bad. Sorry. Yeah. What you said.
Yeah.
What you said. I thought you said Caracas away. I misheard you.
I'll activate Mangara.
And he does not do the Mangara Caracas trick, perhaps because he has another Mangara in hand?
perhaps.
This is unfair.
Lewis is at 10.
Perhaps to leave Swords to Plowshares open?
Lewis 10, Alex 17.
Does he have swords in his hand? I mean, so you can't really leave swords open. He has a curse catcher. I'm just confused.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why he wouldn't pop that back
I
up.
lost game 2 of the round that I drew.
And then he has the vial to go with
Yeah,
it?
that one.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I'm not sure.
he just...
Well, I mean, let's pretend that he's playing around swords from his opponent, right? He thinks there's the possibility of a main deck swords. This means that if he has a Mangara in hand, he can put it into play with Caracas to protect it. But I mean, doesn't that just put him in the same position?
As opposed to use the other one then.
So,
Your seedings for deck construction are found on blue paper.
There's the knight.
Board marked A through D. Two-headed giant will be using blue paper all afternoon. The tables are right behind that pairings board on the Star City Games white table numbers. Once again, two-headed giant sealed. Please find your seats on the blue paper.
what a devastating switch around in just fortunes.
Yeah, I mean, things looked pretty bad for Lewis.
A sovereign is back in play, so protecting that sovereign from the Sword of Fire and Ice could be problematic.
Mother of Runes trigger. It'll be 16. Target Merfolk Sovereign. Draw a card.
Yep. And a Wasteland.
Yes.
Even if he'd had a Mutavault open to block, the Wasteland would have taken care of that.
Just a second. So Alex was at 17 before.
He was at 19 and I attacked him for 3.
Is it 19?
+2/+2.
Okay. Alex.
So I played Joe Grun.
16. And Lewis is at
Wow, this sword is doing a lot of work.
Yes, it is. Wasteland kills the white source.
I mean, he may expect, like, sword's main. It's not unreasonable for him to expect
And
that thing.
scoop.
Yeah, he's going to pack that one in.
That was exciting. I'm not going to
Yeah.
lie. I mean, when I went over there and I saw that there was a Lord of Atlantis in play that we didn't realize, I was kind of floored. But, you know, I remember seeing it earlier, but I guess I just thought it had been destroyed at some point because I didn't see it on the screen. And I thought the Merfolk Sovereign was the end of the board. And even that was mostly off screen. But then Lewis, using the Moms essentially to hold off a mono blue attack force long enough to be able to get a Stoneforge Mystic, Sword of Fire and Ice into play. And then Mangara to really just turn things into a real problem. Aether Vial and Stoneforge Mystic both do some really impressive work in this matchup.
The Vial's just so good. Because you
Yeah.
can use all your mana to, like, use your equipment and things like that.
So let's pretend that you are Lewis Laskin, and you have access to an extra Umezawa's Jit to go up to 2, and you have access to Path to Exile. Do you bring any of those in?
No. I bring it good.
Say that again? Couldn't catch that. I mean, I think that
I
one
bring
of
in the Jit, but
Right. I mean, I think that Path to Exile is perhaps too dangerous, even if it kills a Lord, you know, because giving them that mana, that blue mana, can be actually a really big deal.
More like GMT.
yeah, I mean, I don't think that Path is a very good plan when you're fighting a Merfolk deck.
Yeah.
They have a lot of lords, so maybe like appealing, like you want to fight them that way. But I really think you want to fight them with things like, you know, Stoneforge Mystic for my Sword of Fire and Ice, because that's really the best thing you can do against them.
Sword of Fire and Ice is just a total monster. Now, on the other side of the table,
I could see him bringing Pithing Needle and trying to name Sword of Fire and Ice.
yeah, I mean, a Pithing Needle, seems like a totally reasonable way to try to deal with that card, as long as it's not already on a creature. After it is already on a creature, that's a little bit problematic. Now, Kira, the Great Glass Spinner, is another thing that you can consider bringing in against this, making it so that that sort of Fire and Ice targeting will just fail to hit. And then, actually, Kira seems, the more I think about it, to be actually a very reasonable card to bring in, making the swords of the opponent less effective, as well as making Sword of Fire and Ice only terrible instead of game-ending.
My friend who,
There seems to be some controversy over the pronunciation of Pithing Needle.
Well, I definitely agree with Ugbot. Umezawa's Jit, or Jite, or however you want to say it, it is a sword breaker, or sword catcher, if you will. Definitely not a sword.
Yeah.
Now, as a non-Japanese speaker, I have tended to say Jit, but once someone from Japan, or someone fluent in Japanese were to tell me differently, maybe I would change things around.
I'm not familiar with not many non-English words. Well, I mean,
I know Ola, that's a good one.
well, I mean, as far as like magic words go,
Like
I know
Batard.
Jit.
Batard for mongrel. Very important one to know. That's
Says,
Is that bad?
Sumph, swamp,
I mean, I used to have a.
I'm playing high tide. I'm playing transformation sideboard.
Taco.
You should see what my combo is.
for Tacoma.
Gonna get some Shukos up in here.
But Pithing Needle is pronounced pith, like myth. Pithing Needle.
Pith like myth.
Yes.
What's always
our
fun-
donut is correct.
What's always fun is when we have the conversations about how fantasy names are supposed to be pronounced.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, someone was complaining about how we'll call Emmy, our Cthulhu 1515 Flying Lord, how that's pronounced. And I don't know that I've heard an audiobook that has confirmed the pronunciation of the card.
There's no pronunciation of Emrakul.
Emrakul. I mean, maybe there was one that was intended by Wizards of the Coast, but I don't think that they've told us.
Yeah, I never got a memo.
Yeah.
They never sent me an email or anything. You know, I didn't find it in the dictionary when I looked it up, so
No, I'm sure
I guess I just decided to say it phonetically. But a lot of people, you know.
Magic card guy out there is probably saying, well, actually, if you look at this particular novel, you'll see that his name rhymes with this, as is spoken in blah blah. I don't really care.
It's obviously not good. But
If it's a real world, if a real world word, then I'll care that I'm saying piving, piving. I don't like saying those words wrong. That's a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah, an actual word, like piving. There you go.
Now, interesting fact for those of you who are in school, I'm going to tell you straight up that if you ever go to try to get into grad school, you will find that magic terminology will help you a lot on the GRE. There are a lot of words you will know just because you play Magic that you will do better on a GRE because of.
Yes. It will also help a lot in your SATs.
Yeah.
There are a lot of words that you would have no idea, but you play Magic, and when you read these words, you're going to see them and you're going to be like, I've seen that on a black card. Now, here are the definitions
Exactly.
they give me. Which one would be a black card? Okay, I've seen that word
Yeah,
on a red
fugue.
card.
What does fugue mean?
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I seem to recall that I had to discard for that, so...
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I could have told you at least 35% countertop.
What was the one that I really remember?
Because
Fecundity. That was actually... Fecundity was definitely a word that was on the GRE for me. And I was like, I know what that is. Unfortunately, they didn't accept my green enchantment answer.
So you gain knowledge when things die, man. It's like, you know, with the dinosaurs.
Okay, so we get the opening here. Alex Gonzales cracking a land, putting himself down to only 7 blue sources, or pardon me, 10 blue sources left in his deck. And Aether Vial, a very important card for this match. And we got Dueling Vials.
Draft open number 2 players.
I like Lewis's vials better.
Draft open number 1
I'm actually not sure about that, because Alex's Vials can be just pure mana acceleration. He can go Silvergill Adept here and then lay, you know, a Curse Catcher all at once. Or pass the turn. Lewis is happier to be playing the passing game, though, that's for sure. I think I'm going to be rooting for Lewis in this one, just because his deck is awesome. I mean, you were knocking on it before, but now you're smiling and you're excited about it.
I mean, I'm easy to please, you know. Like when people talk to me about decks, the majority of the time, like, oh man, that sounds horrible. But then the second I see a deck working, I just get so excited and I want to play it. I would actually play this deck.
Michael Frazier.
We like green and white.
Swords to Plowshares is going for the Lord of Atlantis.
Way too easy.
Like my least favorite colors in Magic are blue and black. I'm the only person in the world.
Coral Helm Commander. We're up to, what is that, 2 on both vials? Another Swords.
I'm actually winning. So sick.
And then Lewis's deck just. I'm looking at his hand and looking at like, this deck's really good.
Wow, what a reversal! You have been talked
Yeah.
into appreciating this deck.
I have. I mean, I should have known it was going to be good. As I was saying earlier, like Lewis was really impressing me with the way he was talking about the game.
And we have another Coral Helm Commander, again being leveled up.
A Coral Commander is one of the few cards that could really like kind of pose a problem.
Yeah, I mean, what you're going to be able to do with that is dodge this Mother of Runes, keeping you from having fun. Oh, goodness. Drew another sword. Right off the top.
I think he has a third one in his hand.
No.
2 with 26. We have instant and a land in the graveyard. 3 swords and a land. Two. 24. And it's your turn.
It's a good question. What round is this? Okay. This is Adrian Sullivan here with you for Star City Games Live, bringing you live coverage of the Kansas City Legacy Open Series. And I'm here with Jacob Van Lunen.
Hello.
We're watching the 4th round of Legacy between Louis Laskin playing Green and Taxes, a Death and Taxes variant, versus Alex Gonzales playing Fish, Merfolk I should say, with White.
See, I wonder what's going to happen in this attack step. Oh, all right. Well,
Okay, and that
I
is
guess
what
it was
happens with that
just
attack.
a,
That's the end of the game,
that
folks.
is the end.
I got nothing coming up. Like, Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Man, Lewis's deck just crushed there.
That was awesome. I'm going to say that that deck is exciting.
Are you playing swords in main? So it's just recycling?
I don't think it's me
And
wanting to
they're going to come back to us in a second. So, for you, O Doubter of Mangara, how do you feel about how the Mangara played out in that first match?
Is just
I don't know. I feel like it could have been a path.
my first
Would
top
have
8
probably been better.
was
It could have been what, path?
A path
Okay.
probably would have been better.